The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton is brought to you by Dubby. What is Dubby? Dubby is a clean energy drink that is made to give you focus with no crash, jitters, or angst like those other energy drinks have. They also have no maltodextrin fillers and don't use artificial dyes. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. W's products are made in the USA in an FDA inspected facility that strictly adheres to GMP manufacturing guidelines. All of the flavors are unique and custom made by W, and you'll never taste our taste anywhere else. The best part about it is they're affordable. W's drinks come out to about $1 per drink, much cheaper than Starbucks or any of those canned energy drinks. To learn more, visit w.gg.com/discount/MRTipton33 and place your order today. Use promo code Mr. Tipton33 and save today. W Energy, be better. What's going on, everybody? I want to tell you about my new friends over at Cleverman. Visit them online at becleverman.com. What they gave me was the energizing face and beard scrub along with the Cleverman face scrubber. And trust me when I say this, the energizing face and beard scrub smells amazing. Combining it with the face scrubber, making sure that your boy was looking as good and sexy as possible, opened up a whole different sensation in my face that I haven't ever felt before. I felt so clean, so fresh, and so clean, like Outcast said, and it helped me feel like I was ready for my day. Make sure you visit them online at becleverman.com and follow them on Instagram at clevermannyc. The link is up in my bio if you want to check out all the amazing products they have. Visit them online, becleverman.com. Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. Mike Tipton hanging out with you here on a Tuesday morning, March 11th. We are live on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, and of course on Instagram, thanking in our new Instagram audience. We're going to keep trying this out for the foreseeable future. Let's see how this goes with them. And of course, over on Roku with our friends, National Streaming Sports. Check out all they have to offer on National Streaming Sports. The various platforms they have, the very talented individuals that they have, helping run and grow what they have over at National Streaming Sports. So, football, right underway. All the stuff that we've got in the football world, right underway as of right now. And yesterday we saw NFL teams spend over $1 billion, $2 billion in NFL free agency. Over $2 billion, $2.1 billion that were spent in NFL free agency. And I have to sit back and I have to sit here and think about all this stuff. Why? Right? Like, why are we spending so much damn money? Now, obviously, you're the pro, you get paid as much as you possibly can. That's the best part about what it is that you do in the world of sports. But I look at some of the contracts, right? And I sit here and I think to myself, some of these teams, like the Carolina Panthers, who went out yesterday, signed 5 different players. The Carolina Panthers spending a ton of money. You have to know, right? Like again, I look at sports a little differently. I look at it the same way I look at myself. Like, I have to know what things I'm good at, what things I'm not good at, what things I can be better at. Like, that self-internalization and self-realization of who I am as not just a person, but as an individual, as a family person, all those other things, right? All the various hats that we wear in our world. And I look at the Carolina Panthers and I say to myself, you are so far away. So far away. Trying to remember who sings that song. I don't know. I can't remember who sings that song. But whatever it is, they're far away. So far away. And you go out and you give multi-year contracts to a bunch of other people. Now, I like the Patrick Jones contract that Carolina got, getting Patrick Jones away from Minnesota. But I'm just like, why are you spending this kind of money? And I get it. You have to give your fans hope, blah, 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 blah. And I start thinking about the teams that I like. And that team is the Dallas Cowboys. And I meant to bring this up. I was working on commercials, so forgive me while I bring it up right now. But I look at what the Dallas Cowboys have done over the last, I don't know, what do we call it? Decade now, since 2015? And one of the things that popped out here for me with the Dallas Cowboys was since 2015, whenever they signed Greg Hardy, of all people, to a long-term deal, $6.5 million annually is what they signed Greg Hardy to, following all of the issues that he had in Carolina, following all of the accusations that he had in Carolina. $6.5 million annually is what the Dallas Cowboys decided they were going to spend on Greg Hardy. Now, since then, the salary cap has almost doubled in the NFL. Almost doubled in the NFL. But dating back to 2015, the Dallas Cowboys have not spent money in free agency. Greg Hardy is the peak. That's the most money they've spent on a per year basis with a player is $6.5 million per year. And you look at some of the guys that the Dallas Cowboys signed yesterday, as I scroll down here with them, and they signed guard Robert Jones. Okay, I guess we can't be mad at that. We said we wanted them to get a little bit of depth on the defensive line or on the offensive line, right? Then they go out, they sign Javonte Williams from Denver, the running back. And I sit here and I think to myself, neither of these moves really make you all that great, right? And then I think about last year where it's like, okay, you could have either kept Tony Pollard for what you signed these guys, the running backs that you signed, the contracts that they've signed to. But the one thing that really surprised me with Dallas, I know I said it, like I'm a big fan of Rico Dowdle. But where I was really surprised with Dallas is that they didn't go in and target somebody like a Najee Harris, who just got signed by the LA Chargers. And I agree with you, Tommy. Robert Jones, depth. That's what we wanted, right? We wanted depth along the offensive line. He's a good enough dude that can be a fringe starter for you. And just seemed to be, again, right? Like someone gets injured, you got a guy that started some games that can play the position. He's a big dude, so he's going to be able to big beefy guy pushing beefy men around, right? That's what the Dallas Cowboys are trying to get out of Robert Jones. But the money the Dallas Cowboys have spent in the running back position, I feel like they could have done that last year to get Derrick Henry. We all saw how cheap Derrick Henry was. Same thing with Saquon Barkley. You could have done that with that. You had an opportunity to get Najee Harris, who gets a one-year deal with the LA Chargers, and I think that's a huge signing for the LA Chargers. I didn't think, and I was going through this whole season, I didn't think that Pittsburgh was going to let Najee Harris walk away, especially for a nothing contract. That is mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing to me. And Tommy is hitting it right on the head. I see Linda McGrath commenting on here saying, "Hi, Michael Tipton. Have a great show. Your Cowboys seem to be moving in a new direction after a slow start." The Dallas Cowboys are the master of the slow start. Everything they do is a slow start. The slow burn, known as the Dallas Cowboys, the gonorrhea of the NFL, known as the Dallas Cowboys. There is something genuinely wrong with me. Oh, but Tommy Kanata saying the Javonte Williams signing better not stop the Cowboys from drafting a running back early, right? And that's what we were talking about yesterday with the Dallas Cowboys is you have some running backs in the second round. Obviously, more than likely not going to get Ashton Genty. But you have the ability to draft some pretty decent running backs in the second round, where we see really good running backs tend to thrive. I hope that this signing of Javonte Williams doesn't do that for the Dallas Cowboys. Jaime Pinkman saying, "You just figured that out? Sheesh." I want to apologize for the people that watch on X. We always seem to have some sort of issue every now and again with X. X was down yesterday. I thought X was kicking me off. They're like, we don't want this guy around anymore. Him and his weird views on life. Shout out to my guy Trent Sieg, though, from the Dallas Cowboys, getting re-signed to a deal with them, getting a 3-year contract, long snapper for the Dallas Cowboys. Also, my friend, genuine friend on Facebook. Shout out to you, Trent Sieg. But I look at there, right? And I see the contracts that the Dallas Cowboys have given out. And we're looking at 4.7, 4.4, and then $3 million. A grand total of, we'll just call it $12.2 million that the Dallas Cowboys have spent in free agency this offseason so far. Remember, there's still some names that are out there, right? Still some big names that are out there that could be signed, like Joey Bosa, Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, most of them in the wide receiver realm. Right, like you've got a bunch of guys out there that you can still get. Like I was really hoping, and I know that the Cowboys probably aren't going to do this, but if they can get Brandon Sheriff from Jacksonville, and the Robert Jones signed it to me. Like I get it, you need depth, but that's not a dude that like changes the game. You know what I mean? Like that's not a guy that that makes you feel better about where your team is at right now. And maybe it's just me wanting more from the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't know. And then I see, there's still other guys out there, right? Like Zadarius Smith is still out there. You got Mike Williams out there. Von Miller's still out there. And I still want the Dallas Cowboys to go after Joey Bosa. Like, I still need the Dallas Cowboys to go after Joey Bosa. The only way I get off of my 0-17 want with the Dallas Cowboys is if they go out and get Joey Bosa. That would be the only thing that gives me hope that this team is addressing the defense. I think the offense is going to be okay. All you have to do is average 20 some odd points a game. If you have a pretty decent defense, you'll be able to be okay. You don't need to be world beaters on offense. The Cowboys offense, I think, is all right. Maybe you get some depth at wide receiver, but I feel like you can draft that. You get some depth at running back. I feel like you can draft that. The real big need for the Dallas Cowboys is along that defensive line and is their entire defense. You've only spent $12 million. And yeah, one of it's to a guy to be on your offensive line. Another one's to a long snapper. I got nothing but love for my long snappers. I get how important the position is. And the other one was to a running back. But you didn't really address the need that you have if you're the Dallas Cowboys, which is that defense. And if you're not going to do it in free agency, at least not day one in free agency, like I said, there's a ton of guys that are out there that you can still get. Then what are you going to do? We also have to remember that the Dallas Cowboys need a backup quarterback, right? I'm surprised I didn't see Cooper Rush's name get out there, or maybe I did. I don't know. Maybe I've got to try to look back on this. There was a lot of things that happened yesterday. Again, $2.1 billion spent in NFL players yesterday. Just a mind-blowing amount of money being spent in the NFL. Woosah. One of the things, though, that I found very interesting is the depth of the Eagles' defensive line, the defending champions, their defensive line. That is going to be an issue for them going forward, right? Like you lose Josh Sweat, wow, to the Arizona Cardinals. You've lost a couple of other players out there as well. Let me find out all the players that Philadelphia has lost here. Okay. You lost defensive tackle Milton Williams, which I think is a huge deal going over to New England. You lose Josh Sweat, which is a huge deal going over to Arizona. You lose Isaiah Rodgers, maybe a little bit, kind of just one of those things, right? Tommy Canassa is talking about the Dallas Cowboys, saying that the Dallas Cowboys need a new slot corner too now that Jordan Lewis has gone to Jacksonville. I feel like you kind of knew that Jordan Lewis's time in Dallas was done, right? Like I feel like that was one of the things that we kind of knew going forward. I hope he does well in Jacksonville. I also love that Jacksonville seems to be a home for former Dallas Cowboys. If I'm not mistaken, they also got Chuma. They took Chuma as well. So let me go back down to the Cowboys. Let's see who the Cowboys lost. Jordan Lewis, Chauncey Golston going over to the Giants. What is up with defensive linemen leaving the Cowboys and going to teams in the division? Chuma Adoga, yeah, he went to Jacksonville as well. Trent Sieg staying with the Dallas Cowboys. I would have liked to have seen Dallas keep Chauncey Golston once again, just for depth along the defensive line. I kind of get it, I guess, but I'm just like, man, and I was wrong on that. Adoga's not a defensive lineman; he's an offensive lineman. I'm in my zone right now. Of I hate seeing players from the Cowboys go to other teams in the division. Now he went to the Giants. Good luck, right? Like the Giants are absolute dog stuffing. Another word was going to come out there. Apologies to the Roku crowd. Been a while since y'all heard me apologize to you. I'm sorry. I feel like I do it almost every day. But let's look at some of the names out here, right? And whenever you see the Bengals lose some of the players that they lost, like Sheldon Rankins, Alex Kappa, it makes you wonder what's going to happen. Exactly, Tommy, exactly. Washington yesterday. I'm still just stuck with everything that the Washington Commanders have done. They seem to be a very well-ran franchise. They're addressing their needs, right? Like they get Javen Kinlaw from the Jets, addressing their defensive line. They've done this throughout the whole period with trades, with all kinds of stuff. We've seen Washington be extremely active this offseason. And as I watch what Washington is doing, I feel like I'm about to eat my words where I had said, at the end of their season, right at the end of the NFC Championship game, that they were not going to be able to be an NFC Championship team. And they just seem to keep making some great moves, getting depth along the offensive line, getting depth along the defensive line here. They're doing all the things that they have to do in order to show their fan base that they love and appreciate what they're getting right now. And you look at the Dallas Cowboys, and it seems to be the exact opposite, right? Like nothing in terms of trades that makes you seem like, oh, okay, this team's going to do well, despite the fact that there were needs out there that they could have addressed in the trade market. Nothing that they've done really in free agency that makes you say, oh, okay, like they're building towards the future. Again, depth, right? Like I get it, depth. You still got $48 million that you can spend in free agency. You need to do that if you're the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm just sitting here watching this team right now, and I'm waiting. I'm watching and waiting. But we've seen, once again, over the last decade, going back to the Greg Hardy signing, they do not sign free agent players for more than $6.5 million annually. Over the last decade, that's what they've done. Despite the salary cap ballooning the way that it has, going back to 2015, the Dallas Cowboys have not done any long-term signings of note. Anything that makes you feel like, oh, okay, in free agency, the Dallas Cowboys know what the hell they're doing. Draft-wise, the team has been doing great. If you're a Jerry Jones hater, I get it. You don't like what the Dallas Cowboys do, but whatever. You got to push all that stuff to the side. What Dallas has been doing in the draft has been fantastic for the Dallas Cowboys. Everything else, though, not so much. The free agent signings, not so much. They've just been, once again, the Dallas Cowboys, a factory of disappointment, especially watching them here in the early part of free agency. Looking at some of the other teams that are out there, Tommy Cananza saying it's a losing formula. I don't know how they don't see that. Or maybe they do and they just don't care. It's so hard for me with the Dallas Cowboys because I feel like I've been, for a while now, a Jerry Jones apologist, right? And I don't think Jerry Jones needs me apologizing for him whenever he does stuff. I'm not talking about it that way, but I've always given the benefit of the doubt to the Dallas Cowboys, their ownership, Jerry Jones. I think that they're a great organization, right? And I've said it a million times as well. The job of the president and the owner of the team is to increase the value of the team. So, from that aspect, the Dallas Cowboys have been phenomenally ran. But the roster construction of this franchise leaves you wanting more. I didn't realize that in free agency, the Dallas Cowboys, dating back to 2015, haven't given money out to people since Greg Hardy. No one as a free agent has gotten more than $6.5 million from the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like I have to drive that point home because it's so hard for me to believe that this is what the team has done. Despite having $279 million in available salary cap, obviously not available, but total salary cap, not being willing to sign any players to more than $6.5 million in free agency is not how you get your team better. Granted, the team has done well the way that it's been built, but it doesn't seem like it's well enough for the Dallas Cowboys. It doesn't seem like there's any way that the Dallas Cowboys can really move forward if they're going to be so frugal in free agency. $6.5 million isn't a ton of money in the NFL. And you're not really getting anybody of note, of value. Want to give a shout out to Jose Angel, who tuned into the show over on X. I always love seeing whenever we get new people tuned into the show. Love watching over on Instagram as well. Trying to see how that audience goes. Yesterday it was a good audience. Today we've been getting a couple of people in there as well. I'm just trying to see, guys. That's all I'm doing. Just trying to see how it goes. All the different platforms that we have, we're just trying to take advantage of. Woosah. And again, like I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just so disappointed in what I've seen from this team so far. Nonetheless, we'll be all right. I feel like Washington losing Dyami Brown going to Jacksonville was a big loss for them. That's a dynamic receiver. Huge for Jacksonville. I will say that. I love seeing that Jacksonville is willing to spend a little bit of money. Jacksonville was extremely active yesterday. And again, it's Jacksonville, so I don't know if this is going to be great for them or not. But they were going out and they were addressing their needs, right? Like they're doing the stuff that the fan. I know you're not a fan of Dyami Brown. I'm sorry, Tommy. I am sorry. Augustine over on Facebook saying huge. Glad to see my guy Augustine back. We missed you, buddy. We missed you. But Jacksonville going out there saying we need to address our needs, right? They get Patrick McCary from Baltimore, center guard, addressing the offensive line. Jordan Lewis addressing their defense. Augustine asking if X is still down. It doesn't seem like it is today, but you know. Tommy saying, I'm not a fan of Brown. I don't think he's very good. I agree. Augustine was in LA all of last week, just being the big high roller that he is. Maybe he was hanging out with Luka. Maybe that's why LeBron got hurt. Oh God, no. I didn't get to speak about it, but I feel like now, I guess, is the time. I segued into it a little bit, right? LeBron James out 2 to 4 weeks. Augustine went to Phoenix and then LA. Oh, look at that guy. LeBron James was out 2 to 4 weeks, might be a little bit longer with a strained groin. And I feel like the reason why it happened was because of the 4-letter network, ESPN, just the way that they ride LeBron left and right to get ratings. He got sore. He got tired. He can't deal with it anymore. I also, you know what, shout out to LeBron for going over to Stephen A and just being like, look, man, he almost went full Will Smith, slapping the hell out of him, saying, keep my son's name out your MFing mouth. I would have loved to have seen LeBron James do that. I hated Stephen A's response, where Stephen A was like, oh, well, I wasn't talking about your son. I was talking about the basketball player and blah, 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 blah. Whenever you invoke that someone is in the NBA, whether it's true or not, but someone has their job because of nepotism or not, whether it's the truth, you better expect dad or whoever to be upset with you. LeBron James is doing what every single one of us would do as a parent, which is, if I had the opportunity to strong arm a team to basically sign my son to be on the team's roster, I'm going to do it. And I would expect every single one of y'all out there to do that for your child as well. If you have an opportunity to get them generational wealth that they can get on their own for just playing basketball, every single one of us is going to do that, right? Tommy Kanatsa saying, it's true. I agree. It is true. But if you're going to talk about a man's son, if someone talks about my kids, if someone talks about your kids, my dude, you better be willing to accept whatever's coming your way. And watching LeBron James walk over to Stephen A. Smith as he's sitting courtside, just look at him and be like, I can eat you right now. I can eat your entire soul. And watching Stephen A. Smith do a Stephen A. Smith thing of like, oh, well, I wasn't doing I wasn't doing all that. Blah, 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 blah. If you're going to say it, own it, dude. Like, it's really that simple. If you're going to say it, own it, dude. Saying don't be mad if someone points it out, though. I think, how do I put that? Like, I agree with Charles Barkley, which isn't something I say very often, but I agree with Charles Barkley. And ESPN has an addiction to just talking about the same storyline over and over and over and over and over, right? And it's always the same thing that we get, right? I feel like the hate of the Dallas Cowboys comes from people like Stephen A, comes from ESPN, where it's just, let's regurgitate the same old take over and 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 over again. Even that little bit of me saying over and over became annoying, right? Say it at the beginning of the season, get it out your system, move on, find a different storyline, right? Bronny's been at the end of the bench, basically where he belongs, because he has been good in the G League. He's just not great in the NBA, right? The Lakers need depth. They need warm bodies. So why not just have Bronny on there, because you're paying him more than you're paying anyone else in your G League team, right? The finances are, this guy has to be on the main roster because of how much money we're paying him. He's getting $7 million, which is like a million, or what was it, $6.7 million more than everyone else that's ever drafted in the second round, right? And I agree with Minor Mike over here. That's my dude, Minor Mike Fakir. Great conversation with him that we had I guess about a week ago. It gets ratings, right? People are going to tune in. You have the two different sides, right? People love talking about LeBron. People hate talking about LeBron. People love talking about the Dallas Cowboys. People hate talking about the Dallas Cowboys. But no matter what, people are going to be listening, right? But the storyline this deep into the season shouldn't be, well, Bronny James is on the roster because of LeBron, blah, blah, blah. It's such an old, played out storyline. The season started in October, November, December, January, February, March, 6 months of he's only on the team because of this daddy. Cool. He's on the team. He's on the main roster because, yes, his dad got him a contract of $7.5 million, which is so much more than you give other second-round picks. And if you're going to pay someone that kind of money, they better be on your GD roster, whether or not they're on the end of the bench. They can't just be in the G League because it's a waste of assets and a waste of money allocation, right? I think about this all the time, especially with cars. especially with cars. I love cars, right? I love cars. And I sit back and I see these people that buy, like, a 67 Mustang, and they just get in, they park it over at the end of the garage, and they put a cover over it, and they're like, I'm just gonna leave it there and let it collect dust. And I sit back and I think to myself, if I bought that GD car for 1.5 million or whatever, I am driving that MF, and I'm driving it till the wheels fall off. Hell, my Mustang, 200 plus thousand miles on that damn thing. I took it in the last couple of years. Kansas City, Dallas, San Antonio, Utah, like, it's been all over the place with me. And it is a rare-ish car because they only made X amount of money or X amount of cars in that color scheme. Even less as convertibles. I'm driving it till the wheels fall off, my guy. If I'm spending the money, I'm getting my money's worth out of it. And I feel like that's what the Lakers have to do with LeBron or with Bronny James. Oli Arena saying good morning. Good morning to you, Oli. Hope you're having an amazing day, a wonderful day so far here on this Tuesday morning as we are live on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on Roku via National Streaming Sports. Shout out to our friends over at National Streaming Sports tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully, I will be a part of the National Professional Sports Show. This past week, I couldn't be able to be a part, or I wasn't able to be a part of that. Something came up. Life happens. C'est la vie, mon ami. Augustine saying, I'm back. What is wrong with Facebook and X? That is a loaded conversation, and I'm not going to get into that right now, my guy. We're not doing that right now. And to be honest, what LeBron did was so wrong. How? Every single one of us, as a parent, would do that for our kid. You get your kid where they need to be. And Tommy, I agree with you. Earn that shit. Sorry, Roku. Earn that poopy. Earn it, right? The only way he stays on the roster is if he's good enough to stay on the roster. If Bronny James isn't there in 2 years, it's because Bronny James wasn't good enough to be. But get your kid where he needs to be and at least allow him the opportunity to do it, right? Let's not forget, this is the same kid that just a couple of years ago we didn't think was going to be able to play basketball because his heart stopped on the damn court during practice. Him being in the NBA right now, whether it's oh wow, I'm such an asshole. I love, and for those of you that are new, whether you're watching on Instagram or wherever it is that you're watching, Roku or anything like that, I apologize. You can see in real time as I'm about to say something whenever I regret what's about to come out of my mouth. Whether or not Bronny James, because of his heart condition, is a Make-A-Wish NBA player because of what his daddy was able to do, doesn't necessarily matter 6 months into the season. It shouldn't be the storyline. The Lakers have been on fire. And Tommy, I get it. You're a Mavs fan. You're upset. Luka's going to be carrying the team. But every single one of us, if we were in that position, would set our kids up for as much success as we could possibly do. I'll get you where you need to be. It's up to you to stay there. And that's what it's going to be for Bronny. Bron got him there. It's up to him to stay there because Bron's going to be gone in a couple of years, maybe. Jesus, the way this guy's playing, he could probably play till he's 50. Augustine saying it's Stephen A. Smith's job to be critical, and if he is on Bronny, it's his decision. Critics are going to be everywhere. I get that 100%. It's his job to be critical. But don't sit there and cower. Again, if you're going to say it, own that shit. Sorry, Roku. If you're going to say it, own it. That's simple. Don't sit there and be like, well, what I was trying to do, well, I wasn't talking about Bronny James, the person. I was talking about Bronny James, the basketball player. Blah, 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 blah. Weave in and out all you want. Whether or not you're talking about somebody, you got to remember at some point in time, you're talking about somebody's kid. And you have to remember, I'm one of these people that's on site. You say something about my kids, the next time I see you, we're going to have words. Right? Like that's just the way that I grew up. You can talk about any number of things you want about me. I'm goofy looking. I got a crooked face, whatever it is. You can say whatever you want to about me. You don't talk about my kids. You don't talk about my family. You do that stuff, then we've got a problem. And I don't care who it is, because whenever I was in the Air Force, a master sergeant looked at one of my uniforms and said, "There's a little wrinkle here. Is your wife so lazy that she doesn't iron for you?" And I damn near went ballistic as a brand new airman and was like, "My dude, you don't talk about my family that way. Line right here, line is drawn. The rest of it, you want to punish me for standing up for my family? By all means, go ahead and do it. But you ain't going to talk about my family." And guess what? He never spoke about my family again. And that is someone who really genuinely could have affected my career whenever I was in the Air Force. We wound up having a pretty decent relationship. Minor Mike saying, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with LeBron getting Bronny a job. It's cool, but critics are going to be there. JJ Redick will develop him. I would like to think that. I would really like to think that. It's not LeBron's fault. He did what any dad would have done. It's the Lakers' fault because they capitulated. I will agree with that. I think if the Lakers would have just given Bronny a regular G League contract, they would have let him develop in the G League. Like, he should be in the G League right now. I'm not debating that at all. He's a fringe NBA player. But the reason why he's in the NBA right now instead of the G League is because of the amount of money they're paying him. And I get it. You do that as like a solid for your dad, right? Like, or not a solid for your dad, a solid for your player. We've seen teams do that all the time, right? The Lakers giving Kobe the huge contract whenever he didn't necessarily deserve it towards the end of his career as like a thank you for what you did for us, right? The Lakers are, at the end of the day, and this is the difference between the Lakers and a lot of the other NBA teams out there. The Lakers are a family-owned business, but the business of the Lakers is strictly the Lakers. Whenever you look at like the Knicks with James Dolan, right? There's a whole bunch of other stuff. The Dolan family owning the Sphere, owning all these different real estate groups and companies and things like that that they have out there. With the Mavericks, the Adelson family, right? They own a bunch of casinos and a bunch of other stuff like that. Most ownership groups in the NBA have money that comes to them from other agencies, right? Like Mickey Harrison with the Miami Heat owns Carnival Cruise Lines, getting money off of cruises, right? Like, they have an ancillary product that brings them more money into what their or more than what their NBA franchise does. The business of the Lakers is strictly just the Lakers. That is all the Buss family owns, is simply just the Lakers and how we can make the Lakers better. So they run it like a family. In my opinion, to their detriment sometimes, but you can't really judge them whenever they've won as many championships as they've won with Jerry Buss and his family being at the helm. Want to give a shout out to a couple of people that are tuned in over on Instagram. I got to get some new glasses, man. I really do. Tommy Kanata saying, to be honest, I've never liked LeBron. It has nothing to do with Luka. Okay, I got you with that one. And I agree, Stephen A. say that was, what did Stephen A. I agree, but what did Stephen A. say that was so wrong? Again, I don't think it's that he said one thing. It's the 6 months of this is the same thing that we're going to say over and over and over and over, and it gets old, right? It's like, look, man, come up with something else. Charles Barkley was right. ESPN, whenever they talk about basketball, they don't talk about the teams that are good, right? You don't hear them talk too much about the Cavs, about Oklahoma City, about all this stuff. I'm guilty of it as well, right? Because the storyline has been the LA Lakers. The only difference is I have 1 hour to do it every day. And I've got me doing everything, right? I'm my own researcher. I'm my own producer. I play the commercials. I do all the things that I've got to try to do. They have a whole team of people. They talk about basketball and any of the stuff they do for 3 to 4 hours at a time. How are you not mentioning the good teams? And whenever all you do is talk about one guy and his kid, it becomes an old, overdone conversation. I haven't heard the Inside the NBA people on TNT, and they talk a whole bunch of crap. I haven't heard them say anything about Bronny since the beginning part of the season. And again, I watch way too much basketball. It's sacrilege in the state of Texas that I like basketball more than I like football. It's much more fun. So I watch all these things. And even I'm like, oh man. And as I was watching on Sunday, the Sunday NBA pregame show for ESPN, they were going out of their way to not mention LeBron James and make it seem like, oh yeah, no, we've been watching Oklahoma City and the Cavs all year long. You haven't. Because whenever you got people like Stephen A who are making $100 million a year now, and you got to put him everywhere, attention to detail wanes. Tommy Cananza saying that's blasphemy. Want to give a shout out to my girl Laura Mercedes, who's tuned in. Laura Mercedes, who's tuned in over on Instagram. Evan George was on there as well. Ton of people over there that have tuned in at certain points of the day. Thank you all so much. The Instagram thing is new. We're trying it out. We're going to see how long we stick it out with Instagram. Thank you for the likes over on Facebook. Remember, everybody, please like, share. That's the only way we can grow the audience. I appreciate the long-term supporters of the show, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I got to find a way to grow it. So please help me help me. Man, that was a lot more on Bronny and LeBron than I wanted it to be. Getting back over to NBA free agent or NFL free agency. Maybe I'll just talk in this voice the whole time. I'm trying to look at teams that lost the most, right? And I said it. You got a like on YouTube. Yay! Tommy, we were doing so good. Is it me? It's got to be me, right? Like, maybe people are just like, I don't like that guy. The weird energy he has at 8 o'clock in the morning. The weird things he says, his weird voice, everything about him. All of it's weird. But the San Francisco 49ers, yesterday we were talking about what teams in the NFC West need, right? What they need to do. We've been continuing our series. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to the AFC West today. We'll see. Not a whole lot needs to be done in the AFC West. Tommy's saying, it's all you, Mike. I know it's all me. Everything about me. It's just bad. Terrible. But the San Francisco 49ers, I said yesterday, was going to be a team that if they were able to hold on to players, would be able to run it back, right? And then I look and they lose offensive linemen. They lose Aaron Banks. They lose Jalen Moore. Maybe not huge hits for them, but you kind of think about it, right? Then on the defensive side, where that's been their calling card, you lose Trevarius Ward. Huge loss. Trevarius Ward going over to Indianapolis now. You lose Dre Greenlaw, who's going over to Denver, and that's a huge move for the Denver Broncos, helping out that defense, because I think that defense really needed a lot of help. The Denver Broncos, to me, still the second best team in the AFC West, despite what the Chargers have done to try to get better. I just like Denver a little bit better. I'm not too sure why. I just do. I look at the rosters and I compare them, and I think to myself, Denver just a little bit better than the LA Chargers are. And then they lose Elijah Mitchell, which is a little bit of depth. Tommy Cananza saying they're going to add Bosa. Just watch. Oh, God, if they have the Bosa brothers. I mean, it would be cool, right? Like, it's a cool storyline. How often do professional brothers get to play with each other on the same team, right? So, like, I think that would be pretty cool. You play, like, opposite ends of each other. Imagine how awesome it would be. Like, you high-five your brother as both of you just run in through a quarterback, right? I think that would be an awesome thing to, like, witness. But I do not want it to happen. Just please, for the love of God, don't let it happen with the San Francisco 49ers. USA. I hate that team. I've realized as I've gotten older, I connect with more people over the teams I hate than the teams I love. And I connect with more people over the team that I hate to love than I do with anyone else. I hate that I love the Dallas Cowboys. But another team that lost a lot of players was the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? And you can look at the names, like you lose Dan Moore, who's an offensive tackle. You lose James Daniels, who's a offensive lineman as well. You lose Deontay Jackson, which I think is a huge loss for them. He goes over to the Clippers as well, along with Najee Harris going over to the Clippers as well. Or not the Clippers. The Chargers. Why on God's green earth am I talking about the LA Chargers or the LA Clippers right now? There is something genuinely wrong with me. Want to give a shout out to Jessica Michelle Forzon, who's tuned in to the show right now. You know what? On tomorrow's show, Jesse, I am going to try your spreadables toast, and we'll just see how it goes. Exactly that, guys. It is a spreadable jelly, which is just mind blowing to me that people can do these things with jellies. Check out what she's got with Jolly Belly jellies. That's always a mouthful for me. But losing Justin Fields, who I thought could have been the quarterback of the future, makes it seem like they're about to move into a different direction, right? You just got DK Metcalf. The Steelers have been extremely active right now, right? Like you just got DK Metcalf. Does that mean that they're going to re-sign? So it's spreadable, but it's also an edible, if that makes sense. Huh? 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 I got a jar of it. I just haven't used it. I think I need to just find a day. It's how I deal with migraines, guys. It's the only way. It's either that or Oxycontin. Which one am I going to take? Come on now. Y'all are learning way too much about me. Tommy learned yesterday about the blood that spews out of my body. I was like, okay, well, that's gross. Yeah. I love that my friends have like a similar mindset to me. I mean, maybe it could be used as a triple entendre too. Just the tip. Oh, hold on. I got to get a little closer here. Whispering into everybody's ear. Maybe, just maybe, we can use those spreadables as a triple entendre. The toast ain't the only thing that's going on, baby. Ooh, yeah. That right there is why I'm going to get kicked off of Roku. Sorry, Roku. Although it might have just been the sexiest part of your day. God bless it. I am an idiot. I genuinely am. But I am willing to try out the spreadables. And then another team that lost a lot of players. Roku was watching. I can only imagine they've got like a pen and a paper, and they're like, okay, this guy. We're gonna put that on there. Nope. All these things they have a list a mile and a half long of all the things that I do bad. Is she hot? Always the Augustine question. Is she hot? The question is, are you hot? I believe we all know the answer to that, Augustine. August Ferratu. But the Minnesota Vikings lost a lot of players yesterday, and you got Sam Darnold, who goes over to the Seattle Seahawks. If Sam Darnold went to the Seattle Seahawks before they got rid of DK Metcalf, before Tyler Lockett retired, and I get it, Tyler Lockett's kind of one of those weird players that is he good, is he not good? It's kind of hard to tell. If it was before all of the turnover that they had as far as, personnel goes, we need to have like an alert. I need to come up with like a sounder that's like the creepy Augustine comment alert. Cover your ears while I read this comment from Augustine. If Sam Darnold had gone to Seattle prior to all the turnover, I would have said that's a great move by Seattle, great move by Sam Darnold. Obviously, Sam Darnold's going to chase his bag, right? No one would have thought that he would get a $100 million contract whenever he was jettisoned out from the New York Jets. So congrats to you, my dude, for sticking it out, having the good season that you had. But welcome back to the hell that you have lived your life in, because that is what this is going to be. Seattle is in rebuild mode, and you get to be the quarterback that helps rebuild. Gary Brown saying good morning, Tip, and good morning to the fellas in the chat as well. Good morning to you, Gary. Give me your thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys. I know that you are a Cowboys fan. Let me know what you've been thinking about in free agency. We spoke about it a little bit earlier. The Cowboys having 3 signings. I'm still holding out. I'm still holding out hope that they get Joey Bosa. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that they get Joey Bosa. Tommy Canassa saying the Seahawks dropping money on a quarterback while they get rid of all the weapons. It's It's insanity. It genuinely is insanity to me that the Seattle Seahawks did that. Let's look up. I want to see what other transactions. Maybe I missed something from Seattle. Nope. They got Josh Jones, who was a tackle from Baltimore. Baltimore's having a lot of offensive linemen leave, right? And I think that was one of the strengths of Baltimore was their offensive line. They've had a ton of offensive linemen leave. Let's go back and see all the players that Baltimore has lost out on, right? You lost Patrick McCary. You lost Josh Jones. You've lost Chris Board, Malik Harrison, Brandon Stevens. There's been a handful of players that Baltimore has lost that I think is really going to hurt them in the long run. But that's obvious. Like, you're going to have to wind up paying Derrick Henry if you want to keep Derrick Henry. How much do you pay Derrick Henry? And we've seen the issue with Baltimore is they need to have weapons at wide receiver. Maybe they're just holding off some money, letting some money come off the books to sign Amari Cooper, to sign Stephon Diggs, to sign somebody, anybody that they possibly can. I want to see how active Baltimore has been in re-signing these guys. Baltimore has yet to make a signing at all, which has to be concerning for their fan base. They haven't made a signing at all. Not a recipe to win. It's one thing to be as bad as the Dallas Cowboys. It's another thing to not sign anybody, not re-sign anybody. Woof. Cincinnati going out doing a couple of things as well, addressing their defensive line. They get Joseph Asai, or they re-sign Joseph Asai rather. They get Tardell Slayton from Green Bay to help out, a little bit of depth along that defensive line. That defense was really, really bad for Cincinnati last year. One of the best offenses we have ever seen, coupled with an absolute garbage defense. Cincinnati doing the things that they need to do as well. They get Oren Burks from the Philadelphia Eagles. Gary Bryant saying, my thoughts, still signing day-old bread, Dollar General 5 and below, bargain bin free agents. Javonte Williams may be like Royce Freeman and not make the roster. We will see. So far, and meh. Gary, I don't know if you knew this stat or not, but the Dallas Cowboys have not spent more than $6.5 million on a single player in free agency in the last decade. You cannot build a championship contending team if you're not going out and getting the best possible free agents. The Dallas Cowboys have done great in the draft. I don't think nobody can debate how well the Cowboys have done in the draft. I know, Tommy, you're going to come at me and be like, Tyler Guyton wasn't the guy. Like, he shouldn't have been the guy. Nazi Smith isn't the guy. Like we shouldn't have gotten these guys, right? I'm with you on that. But they've done really well in the draft. And then he's going on to say, the last guy was Greg Hardy. And that was a shot that they took in the dark. Too soon? That was a hit. I'm a jerk. The Chicago Bears also surprising with the Chicago Bears going out, getting defensive line help, offensive line help, doing the things that we know that they need to do in protecting their quarterback in Caleb Williams, right? Tommy's saying that the Cowboys have done well in the draft, just not as of late. Augustine's saying, so, by the way, is there going to be a great second leg champion league game today? Or there is going to be a great second leg championship league game today, Liverpool versus Paris Saint-Germain. I'm going to be interested in watching it. I'm going to be spring break, ain't got a whole bunch to do. I was watching a ton of college basketball over the weekend and yesterday. It was a fun time for your boy. And then I ended the day watching the WWE, a great main event with CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Yes, I'm a 41-year-old man, and I watch a lot of wrestling, as you can tell with the belts that are behind me as I try to figure out my fingers. There we go. Oui, parce que je parle en français. I don't know what you're trying to do here, Augustine. This guy. Looking at the other teams that have been active, of course, Denver has been active as well. Tommy's saying, shut up, Augustine. We're talking about football, not football. We're going with a real man sport. Houston been active as well. Sheldon Rankin's been one of the guys that they signed along their defensive line. Tremon Smith, not to be confused with Tremon Smith, rather. A cornerback from Denver. They re-signed Derek Barnett. Then they go and they get wide receiver help, and they signed Braxton Berrios and Justin Watson. While they let Stephon Diggs just walk away, they say, you know what we need? We need Braxton Berrios and Justin Watson. I almost hit him with the Randy Watson. Watkins. I almost gave him a little bit of sexual chocolate. Gary Bryant replying to Tommy Cananza saying, yeah, putting all of the heat and pressure in your scouting department is crazy. Wrestling is soap operas for guys. I'm with it 100%. I fell out of love with it when like my early to mid 20s, and then back in love with it in my 30s, and here we are in the 40s. We're going to be doing a Bob, Jim, and Pat. Let me go ahead and promo that. I think I'll start promoting that leading up. We're going to be doing a Bob, Jim, and Pat this Saturday, and I'm also going to rank, and there will be the debut of one of these on Bob, Jim, and Pat. I am going to rank my all-time criminal NFL list, as Xavier Worthy of the Kansas City Chiefs was arrested this past weekend in Texas. I will be debuting an entire roster, not just like a few names, an entire roster, the all-time NFL, these guys have been in jail list, and it's going to be a great list. That would be an all-star caliber team that would beat any team. I was going to say something. I'm not going to say what I want to say. They would murder whatever team is out there. Gary Bryant saying, I haven't watched wrestling since Goldberg was in WCW. And you see, for me, that was my introduction into wrestling, right? Getting Goldberg, getting Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Like, I didn't get Hulk Hogan, like, you know, ripping off the shirt and being like, let me tell you something, brother. I didn't get that guy. I got Hollywood Hulk Hogan, smoking cigars with Dennis Rodman, getting diamond cuttered by Karl Malone and DDP. That was my introduction into wrestling, along with like The Rock, Stone Cold, Chris Jericho, all that. There's a reason why my son's name is Jericho. Like, they're just loved wrestling at that point. Then it got pretty terrible in like the early 2000s, and that's whenever I was out, got back into it in like roughly 2012-ish, whenever it was Rock versus Cena at that time. And then, of course, me and my friends, we do a show where we watch wrestling and we get drunk. So why not? Bob, Jim, and Pat this Saturday. Bob, Jim, and Pat get drunk on the internet. All right, y'all. We're going to keep the conversation going tomorrow. We're going to see what happens today in free agency. Remember, $2.1 billion was spent yesterday on Monday. $2.1 billion on the athletes there. We're going to talk more about it tomorrow. Everybody, I appreciate you being a part of the show, tuning into today's show, and we will see you all tomorrow. Please stay tuned for these messages, please, because if you support these teams, you support these products, they'll support me as well. You all know there are hundreds of betting sites out there, but don't be fooled. Some sites are legal in some states only. Some sites pay in Bitcoin, and some sites have even been hacked. However, BetUS has been in business for over 30 years. They have future bets that are paying out in the thousands, and there's still time for you to bet on the Super Bowl, the National Championship, and even the NBA Championship. Just use the QR code right here, and it will take you to the BetUS site. BetUS. Check it out and bet responsibly. Are you a fellow car guy? I have a 2008 Ford Mustang GT convertible, and nothing makes me happier in that car than when it's nice and clean. And you know who helps me get there? RevAutoCarCare.com. They help me get that pony looking as nice and shiny and ready for any of the car meetups that are all around the great city of El Paso. Spoil your car and go to RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton and view all the inventory they have and find out what works for you to help make your ride shine. RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton. Use promo code Tipton33 at checkout to save 15%.